The Los Angeles Kings surprised a lot of people by making the playoffs this year. Now they have to face the Edmonton Oilers. No easy task. Sarah Avampato of Locked On Kings is here to preview the series and talk about what the Kings have to do to pull off the upset.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to the Locked On NHL podcast. And thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. My pleasure to welcome back to the show Sarah Avampato of Locked On Kings. And Sarah, your team, no one really expected them to be here this year. It's like the rebuild is a year, maybe even 2 years ahead of schedule. What was it that allowed the Kings to get here before anyone expected them to be?
Well, I will say that first off, at the beginning of the season here at Locked On, we all did our hot take, bold predictions or whatever. And my bold prediction was that the Kings would make the playoffs. So, congratulations to me for calling that one correctly. Everyone thought I was crazy. Yeah. But, I glad I was right. But yeah, they are ahead of schedule. I think that most people would have expected next year to be that year they made the leap. But here we are. I think they were helped out by, well, two things. One, Seattle being much worse than the analysts and everyone thought they were going to be. And B, Vegas falling off a cliff, which no one is going to complain about except for Vegas fans. But, that definitely gave the Kings a big jump up into the standings because of how Vegas fell off. The Kings also did a lot of work over the offseason to bring in guys like Phil Deneau, who was voted the team's most valuable player, essentially, for all of his contributions. He has a new career high in goals, just really all-around great player. They also brought in Victor Arvidsson, who helped do a lot in terms of scoring. And it was just, if you listen to the players talk at their sort of end-of-season conferences and all of that, everyone felt just the vibe was different this year with the team. And I think that, analytics are great and, numbers and science and everything are really great for helping grow the game. But at the end of the day, there is that just intangible of the guys in the room feeling it, and they felt it all year.
Talk to me about Jonathan Quick. I mean, A, he's healthy again, but B, he really looks like he stepped into a DeLorean, went back 5 years, and all of a sudden is playing like Jonathan Quick circa 2015, 2016.
Yeah, this was not the performance everyone had expected from him based off of the past couple years of him kind of trending down. I do think that there's a little bit of that aspect of internal competition that really pushed him to kind of refocus his game. Everyone sort of expected this to be the year that Cal Petersen took over the majority of starts. Cal Petersen even got the home opener, which this was the first time in basically since Jonathan Quick became the starter that he didn't get that game. And Petersen has struggled this year. He's had ups and downs. He hasn't been as consistent as he has been before. And Jonathan Quick stepped right up and filled that void. So it's magic. We're not going to complain about it. It puts the Kings in an interesting position because, everyone's been sort of thinking about, his career winding down and what do we do after Jonathan Quick? And he basically stood up and said, I'm not going anywhere. And he's been a big reason this team is where they are.
Dustin Brown announcing this will be his last season. Talk to me about his contributions and how that motivates the team heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, he has been just an iconic player for this franchise. He's definitely the guy who leaves it all out there on the ice. Any highlights package is basically going to include him blowing up other guys. There's the clip of him taking out whichever Sedin it was from 2012 that's gotten, a lot more airplay lately. And he just is really heart and soul of the team. And it was both expected and unexpected. You kind of figured he would just kind of follow sort of in the Ryan Getzlaf model of like signing 1 year, 2 year deals until he was done. But he has decided that he's calling it quits once the playoffs are over. And you could see how that could really motivate this team to just leave it all out there in this playoff run. Whatever happens, they're not just playing for themselves now. They're playing for Dustin Brown. And I think it's going to be a huge motivator for this team to maybe continue overachieving based off of everyone's expectations for them. But they're going to miss him. But he's already said he's not going anywhere. Southern California, LA's his home. So he's guaranteed to be roaming around there. I think if he wants a job with the Kings, it's there as soon as he's done.
There you go. One player that the Kings will not have for the playoffs is Drew Doughty. He's been a part of, their recent Stanley Cup wins, a key to the power play. He does so many great things for this team. How do you compensate for the fact that you won't have Drew Doughty, and who picks up the slack?
It's definitely been defense by committee. Since he's been out, and knowing that there is no hope of him coming back, even if they go all the way to the Stanley Cup final, like he's done for the season. And so all of these young players need to keep stepping up. We've seen a lot of guys get bigger roles than they had maybe expected. And now that most of them are healthy, it does take a lot of, it lessens the load on the sort of young players who came up from the AHL to fill in big minutes. But it's a real bummer that he's not going to be there. I know that, he has, a long-standing, epic battle against Connor McDavid, and we're not going to get to see that unfold in the playoffs. And, he was one of the loudest guys in the room about saying, yeah, this team's ready to take the next step. I want Rob Blake and the organization to invest in us and bring in guys, and they did it. And now he's sidelined. So it's big shoes to fill, both on the ice and kind of emotionally as a leader. But, he's still going to be able to be around. He just, I just imagine him, sitting up in the press box or the locker room or whatever, just taking notes. He's going to have ideas on what they need to do better.
So obviously the Oilers represent a challenge. I mean, you have strength against strength, the explosiveness of the Edmonton Oilers offense against the stinginess of the LA Kings defense. What do you have to do to slow down Draisaitl, McDavid, and company and have a chance of winning this series?
Yeah, I think that it's definitely going to be a lot on the defense. It's going to be a lot on the guys like Kopitar and Danault, who play more defensive forward roles. And at some point, it may just become having to outscore your problems, which the Kings have actually kind of shown they can do this year, surprisingly enough. And so it's going to be a really interesting series. I think that for the Oilers, as Mike Smith goes, so goes their playoff run. And so, Kings fans are hoping that Mike Smith turns back into bad Mike Smith, but it's just going to be a lot of, Phil Danault shut down Mark Stone for the Canadiens last year in the playoffs. And I'm pretty confident he can do much the same with the Oilers, but there's also going to be the aspect of don't underestimate the rest of their players, because if you shut down, you can shut down McDavid and Draisaitl, sure, but there's other guys out there who can score. So it's going to be an interesting series. I have no idea what to expect, but here for a good time.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are comparing stylistically this year's Kings to last year's Jets, who swept the Oilers. Do you see any validity to that comparison?
I think the sweep probably not possible, but just because sweeps are so rare. When they do happen, they're always kind of funny. I mean, the Kings' last playoff appearance was them getting swept out of it by Vegas, so I get it. But I do think that this series is a little bit of a coin toss. I kind of hesitate to predict a winner because, whenever the Kings were kind of jockeying for seeding and you were wondering who they're going to play, I was like, oh, there's a lot of ways this could go really terribly. Like, they could have gotten to play Colorado and I would have been like, well, that's a waste of time because they're just going to lose. But, I think that this could go either way. And so it's going to be really interesting to see it unfold.
Sarah, why don't you tell our listeners and our viewers where they could find your podcast and where they could find you on social media?
Sure, you can find Locked On Kings wherever you get your podcasts, also up on YouTube. I'm really excited for the first time in Locked On Kings history to be covering the postseason with the team and not just having to talk about guys who used to be on the team who are still in the postseason. So really excited for that. You can find me on Twitter at Right Said Sarah. It's WRITE Said Sarah with an H. And Locked On Kings is on Twitter at Locked On LA Kings.
All right. Thanks, Sarah. Always a pleasure.
Gladly.
Is brought to you by Built Bar. Summer is coming, and with summer, you're going to need some food on the go. Built Bars are the perfect snack to take with you on family vacations. Throw them in your bags and your kids' backpacks. Make sure everyone has a bar so you're fueled for your summer adventures. The best part about Built Bars, they're healthy and delicious. No more sacrificing delicious food for health. With Built Bar, you can have both, and it's easy. All you have to do is go to Built.com and order now. All Built Bars and Puffs are covered in 100% real chocolate. That means that with Built Bar, you can eat healthy and actually enjoy doing it. Have you tried the Puffs yet? We are going crazy for Puffs. They come in crazy flavors like banana cream pie and even churro. Who doesn't want a protein bar that tastes like a churro? And they're only got 140 calories. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, just 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, but pack 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar, which usually has around 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. Go to Built.com and use the promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com.